is the Preferable Podcast, and I am Jayden Watkins, your host and executive producer, where we uplift not only our community, but we uplift people all around the world.
You are enough.
People do better when they know better. And sometimes the culture in our area is just people not knowing better.
But that passion will carry you and push you to want to succeed.
Have a conversation.
God said, you know what? We're going to take it international. We're going to take it around the U.S.
Hello there. I am Tabitha Brown, and you are watching the Preferable Podcast, hosted by Jayden Watkins.
Listen on your favorite platforms like Spotify, iTunes, or watch on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. The Preferable Podcast, where purpose meets possibility.
Welcome to the Preferable Podcast. I'm Jayden Watkins, your host and executive producer, and I'm so excited to have you here. Please take this time to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platforms you're listening on. Listen, y'all, we are back, bigger and better. This is the premiere of season 4, and I'm so excited. On this podcast, we dive into conversations that uplift, inspire, and challenge us to live with purpose, faith, and grace. Today's episode is all about the power of grace, God's unmerited favor, and why it's so important to extend it to others. Joining me is the amazing Miss Tabitha Brown, a woman of faith, an entrepreneur, an author, and the heart behind Tap Time. We'll talk about how grace has shaped her life, the lessons she teaches through her children's show and book, Hello There Sunshine, and why showing grace, even when it's hard, is essential. And for my young leaders out there, if you've ever been told you're too young to make a difference, Miss Tabitha has some wisdom to share from her own journey in business and faith. So get ready for an inspiring conversation because grace changes everything. Let's jump in. Hi, Miss Tab. Thank you so much for joining in on the Preferable Podcast.
Hello there. Thank you for having me.
Praise him. So thinking about your life story and all the different things you have been through, you are truly the definition of grace and how God can show grace to each and every person, no matter their age, no matter their race or their background. So what does grace mean to you?
That's a good question. I mean, grace to me is leaving room for God's mercy, right? That's what it means for me. Like sometimes we're so quick to react, but leaving grace is just leaving a little space to be like, okay, God, like have mercy in this moment and allow me to take time to process. But also at the same time on the side of like blessings and grace, it's just another version of love. It's another version of love to me.
Wow. And God's unconditional love at that, because people can say they love you all the time, but their actions speak louder than words. So don't just tell me you love me. Show me that you love me.
That's right. That's right. And a lot of times people, they can say they love you, but will never give you grace. Right. And so that means somewhere along the line, you don't know what love is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of grace, how have you experienced God's grace in your life?
Oh, honey, look, here I am still standing.
Yes.
So many ways. I think for many years, and I'm sure you probably know my story, but for many years, moving to, Los Angeles, pursuing acting, I tried to hide my true self because I didn't think that Hollywood wanted to see, a free woman, right? A black woman from the South with this accent. I was told so many times that, no one wants to hear a black woman with that accent. You got to be neutral so that nobody knows where you're from. You can play any character, any role. And I was told like I sounded ignorant, right? And so for many years, I tried to cover who I was so I could fit in. But God is so good that when he finally set me free, he still accepted me and understood that I was just out here trying to figure it out on my own, but he gave me grace. And always, like, God is always waiting on us to return to him, so the fact that the blessings that I have now from just truly being myself, that's God's grace on my life, and surrendering to him. So, yeah.
Surrendering, that's a good piece, because a lot of times we want God to pour everything into us, but we have to understand there has to be an exchange. So, for example, we want blessings, but are we dedicated and committed to him? We want God to do X, Y, and Z and make this dream become a reality. We are microwavable people. We like everything fast, quick, and in a hurry. But what I've found out is that I gain more wisdom when I go through the process. It's like making a homemade meal. The aunties, the older grandmas, they would get in the kitchen and be there for hours. They would start the Sunday dinner on Friday or Saturday, and it would be just great. And it would taste great on Sunday because they put all that work and preparation into it. So sometimes we ask God for those blessings, and we don't want to wait, because when we wait, we be like, I wasn't ready then, but I'm ready now. So God, I'm grateful that you allowed me to wait. So
That's right.
So how has those moments shaped and impacted who you are?
I think the moments, they've given me more empathy for people, right? I give more grace to people because I know what it's like to walk in a journey of uncertainty and really be trying to please others instead of just trying to walk to please God. And so it has changed my heart. It softened my heart even more. I've always been a lover of people, but now it just makes me love even more, be patient even more, give grace even more. So it has been a beautiful impact, I must say, on my life.
And you just spoke a little bit about it, extending grace to someone else. What is your advice to the listeners who are struggling to extend grace to someone else? Maybe it could be generational trauma or generational curses in the family. Why is it so important that we extend grace to somebody else?
I think what we put out comes back, right? It's really as simple as that. You will hope somebody gives you grace when you need it. And so we should all be intentional about giving grace to others. But also it just feels better to try to have understanding and love and compassion and grace for others. So I would always encourage us to not be so reactive and be hot in the moment, trying to do your get back. But sometimes let your get back be grace. It feels better.
Why do you think we sometimes struggle to give grace?
I think it's because of trauma, like you said, right? A lot of times we all have things that nobody know about that we've had to deal with or still dealing with, family trauma, relationship trauma, work trauma. And we have to take time to really unpack that for ourselves. But also some of us don't know ourselves. And if you don't know yourself, honey, it's hard to give grace to others, right? Because you don't even know how to give it to yourself. And so it happens, and which is another reason we have to give grace, because some people don't even realize what they're doing. They don't realize the damage that they're causing themselves and others. So just being mindful of that so we're not so quick to respond in a negative way.
And you talked about knowing who you are and the importance of knowing who you are. And a lot of times people struggle with self-worth because they don't know who you are. And when you don't know who you are, you don't know how much value you can bring to the table. So speaking of value and knowing who you are, when did you discover your life's purpose?
I think, as a child, I always knew I was meant to entertain. Right. I always had this vision and dream of like being an entertainer, acting, performing, doing all these things. And I thought that was like, oh, that's my purpose. And then as I got older, and in the last, actually August of 2017 was when I really came into discovery of, after surrendering my life and being obedient to what God had called me to do as far as doing videos and, sharing what I was eating, I realized all of that is still entertaining to people. But purpose is not to entertain. Purpose is to make people feel. And that's what I realized, like, oh, that's why I love to perform, because it makes people feel. Whether it makes them feel happy, whether it makes them feel sad in the moment, whether it makes them cry or laugh, those are feelings that need to be moved in a body. And that's my gift. My gift is to make people feel, to make them feel seen, to make them feel heard, to make them feel less alone, to feel loved. And so I realized that in 2017 was when I had that awakening.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And what has been the biggest struggle since you found that awakening with the other projects, initiatives, and God-given visions that you have? What other struggles have come with trying to make that a reality?
I think the only struggle, and it's not necessarily a personal struggle, but because I do carry emotion for others, it's trying to navigate people's opinions on, like, when you know who you are, people would just create a whole different narrative because they don't like it, right? And trying to just stay the course, but my heart feels for the people who don't get it, right? Or who are lost in the world. And so, like, for example, there are people that'll say, oh, Tab is fake, honey. Ain't nobody that happy. Ain't nobody got that kind of joy, right? And that makes me sad, because that means they don't know this type of joy. They don't have God in their heart, right? And so I think that's been the most difficult part for me, because I'm like, Lord, how do I love harder? How do I do more to help those people who are lost, who have not experienced your love, who haven't experienced pure joy and happiness? That part gets difficult for me, only also because I'm an empath. Like, I feel other people's, pain and suffering. But it's still a beautiful journey. But that is a part that does get difficult for me.
Okay. And a struggle that I have is people say I'm still too young to do X, Y, and Z. For example, for those who do not know, I share this story a lot and probably have on the podcast. When I was 7, 8 years old, we believed in Santa Claus. I know I have some young listeners, so I'm not going to say what we know about Santa Claus now, but back then I had Santa Claus for a microphone, for a podium, for a drum set, for a piano, because I was trying to have church in my bedroom. And even, I know little Luke, and sometimes our paths connect, and pretty much how he is now is how I was then when I was this age. And so even when I was trying to publish my first book, people said, you're too young. I even have family members to say, what does a 11-year-old, I was 11 at the time, have to say in a book? And then to go back to the preaching, I gave my first sermon at 9 years old, and I was constantly being told, you're too young to preach. They didn't explicitly say that, but they were pretty much saying it through the way they were conveying themselves. Exactly. So I definitely know what you're talking about when you talk about struggles and the importance of knowing who you are. Because yes, it was times even when my parents didn't even know I was crying myself to sleep because I knew this is what I was supposed to do. But it felt like things were not coming together. So if I have any parents, any adults in general who are listening, please don't talk down on young people who have visions and ideas. Yes, it may sound crazy. Yes, it may sound impossible. Even when I started my nonprofit organization a year ago, people were like, I don't think that's going to work out. You're too young. How are you going to balance that in school? And this is what I was told. But I recognize that if I could take 40 teenagers in a mentorship group and it turn into 120 teenagers in 1 year, then this is maybe, just maybe, what I'm supposed to be doing. And to just hear a person say, your podcast helped me not to commit suicide, I'm just going to stop right there. But just those simple reminders
Up next on the Preferable Podcast.
So important what you're talking about, because most times, 99.9% of the time, the people who tell you you're too young, or it's too much, they've never done it.
This episode is being presented to you by
the founding of the Ahmaud Campbell Foundation in honor of my son Ahmaud Campbell at the age of 21 years old, who was unfortunately killed as an innocent victim at a senseless gun violence while he was attending a off-campus party at North Carolina A&T in 2016. Ahmaud struggled in schools. I wanted to help students to continue their education. Our primary goal for the foundation is to give out scholarships each year, and we've been giving out scholarships about $1,000 to each student, at least $2,000 a year since 2017. We also offer the Be Smart program. I will gladly come to churches or any other just neighborhoods to talk about being smart with your guns, securing your guns, so it won't be any senseless gun acts. You can purchase items, or you can click on to just make a donation. www.ahmaudcampbellfoundation.org.
I am Ayanna Lewis.
And I am June Lewis.
And we are the founders of the Abrius Chase Foundation. Our foundation was started back in 2010 after the tragic loss of our children, Abria and Joshua Chase Lewis, after a house fire. The primary goals of the Abrius Chase Foundation are to prevent, rebuild, and counsel. And we do that on the preventive end by providing smoke detectors and batteries to families that are in need.
Yep. And the rebuilding process comes when we're able to assist families with supplying furniture, clothing, or whatever that they may need in order to rebuild.
Absolutely. And when it comes to counseling, we provide a support group for families who have lost children. And we also, one of our new initiatives is providing a support group for children who have lost as well. And even with the preventive part, we will come in your home, change out your smoke detector, provide you with a new one, and change your batteries as well. You are able to follow us on all major platforms at Abrius Chase Foundation. You can also reach out to us at Ayanna Lewis at abriuschasefoundation.org, and that's AYANALEWIS at abriuschasefoundation.org.
It's so important what you're talking about, because most times, 99.9% of the time, the people who tell you you're too young, or it's too much, they've never done it, even at their grown age.
Right? At their grown age.
In their grown age, they've never done it. Yet they're trying to tell you you're too young for something. So it's so good that you stay focused on the vision God gave you, because the people who've never done it are always the ones that tell you can't do it. Yeah, so keep on going and quiet the noise, honey.
Quiet the noise. Quiet the noise. I might preach that on next Sunday. Thank you so much. Quiet the noise.
That's right. That's right.
In your latest book, to shift gears a little bit, Hello There, Sunshine. Let's talk about that a little bit. What inspired you to write your children's book? I know you have 3 other books. Is that correct?
Yes, I have my first book, which is Feeding the Soul. It's right there, the yellow one. Then the blue one beside it is a working journal for that book. And then my cookbook, which is my vegan cookbook, and I Did a New Thing, which was my last book that I did. These are all inspirational, and they feed the soul or feed your stomach, okay? But I have a children's show, of course, it's called Tab Time, and I love children. And I think, if we pour into kids very early, what we deposit grows and it blooms later. And so Hello There, Sunshine, which is my new children's book, there it is right there. I wanted to write a book to teach children that they are their own light. And they're also sometimes a light in somebody else's life. And so as a child, I loved the sun. And so I wrote it very much so based on my childhood of growing up, always looking for the sun that, comes out and plays and makes the day beautiful. And so this one particular morning, the sun was not shining. And I went to tell my mama that, I opened the window to say, hello, there's sunshine. It didn't respond. It wasn't there. And so she said, well, maybe you're going to have to go find it. And so I spent my whole day going around the neighborhood looking for the sun, and the sun never came out. But on my journey through the neighborhood, I was helping my neighbors do things that they were doing. I was helping my friends, fly a kite because they couldn't get it off the ground. But I got on my bike and I rode fast and it lifted it into the air. Everybody was excited. One of my best friends who was afraid of bugs her whole childhood, I helped her overcome her fear of butterflies, and she allowed a butterfly to land on her and she got so excited. And so throughout the day, I was doing all these things. And when I got back to the pond to meet my mama for a picnic, she asked me, did you ever find the sun today? And I said, well, no, the sun never came out. And she said, well, tell me about your day. And so when I told her about my day, all the things that I did in the neighborhood, she said, so you brighten people's day all day today. And in that moment, I realized, oh, wow, I did find the sunshine. It was me all along. And I want children to know that sometimes the little things that we do for others brighten their day just like the sunshine. And also for yourself, because I enjoyed all the things that I was helping my friends and family do in the neighborhood. And that made me feel bright and happy. And so sharing that in a book was like the perfect idea to help kids understand that you are your own sunshine and you can also be the light that brightens somebody's day.
That's good. That's good. Y'all, she pretty much gave us the whole summary of the book, but you still need to go purchase the book. Amen. It's entitled Hello There, Sunshine. So that's really good. And those are lessons that even us at our old age, as you said before, need, because a lot of times we are so focused on how fast the world is moving that we forget those gentle reminders. And you talked about earlier, people ask you, why are you so happy and so joyful? It's because you become grateful for those little things and you find joy in being somebody else's sunshine. So for the challenge for this episode, there it is right there. Go and do something kind for someone else. Not a family member. Try not to do it with someone that you know. It could be you at McDonald's, pay for the person behind you. You could be at the store, just holding the door for the person behind you. So go do something kind for somebody else. And that is this episode's challenge. You see how that just came? So there we go. So going back to all of the wonderful projects you are doing for children, you mentioned this earlier as well. On Tab Time, you teach children valuable lessons. Why is it important for people of all ages to embrace lessons?
Oh, honey, we never stop learning. Every day we should be excited to learn something new. Right. So we should embrace learning. The moment that we think we know it all, we in trouble. Right. We don't know it all. We are all doing life for the first time in this body. This is our first time being here. So every day is a new day, a new lesson to be learned. And so I love making sure I pour that and instill that into children, that learning something new is fun also. Right. But it's also how you learn about yourself. You know, the more that we try differently, the more lessons that we learn, the more we get to know ourselves. So, yeah.
Very good. Now, when can we expect a new season of Tab Time?
Well, crazy enough, we have shot a new season.
Praise God.
We just launched on Peacock, but we're waiting to see what date we'll be able to release new episodes. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but we had a strike that happened about a year ago here in Hollywood, right after we shot. So we couldn't edit those episodes. Everything stopped. And it was months of no work in Hollywood, for entertainment that way. So no movies were being edited. No movies or TV shows were being made. And so Tab Time, unfortunately, fell under that umbrella. And so it delayed everything for about a year. So now everybody's playing catch up now. And then in the process of the strike, the original platform, which was YouTube Originals, they shut down. And then one of the other networks we were going to take the show to, they shut down. And so now trying to find the new home so that we can release the new episodes has been a very time consuming. So, but patience and grace from all our followers who love the show. We're so grateful for y'all. But hopefully very soon, in the next month or two, I hope the new episodes will be released.
Yes, and we are excited. I even watch it. I'm gonna tell you the truth. It helps you fall asleep at night, get your mind out of the thoughts of the world. So yes, indeed. So we are really enjoying it, and to see clean entertainment because even my baby sister, some of that stuff they watch, it won't exist. And I can't call the shows we were watching by name, but we were watching that type of stuff. But now they're hooked to their phones and tablets on YouTube, and a lot of the content is negative. So having that clean entertainment for even them is really good. And it's often overlooked, that sector of entertainment as well. So we're going to transition now to business. We've talked about it already, entrepreneurship, and we started a nonprofit organization and people saying, I'm too young to do it. And what advice would you give to young people like me who feel underestimated but want to keep going, aren't provided as many opportunities, but still want to do the work?
Yeah, I think it's what I told you earlier. Quiet the noise, right? Stay focused on the vision God has given you, on your goals, your dreams that you have. You know what God has put inside of you. There's a reason that it is there. So we do a little bit every day towards it, right? You won't figure it all out in one day, but one small thing towards it every day, eventually that starts to add up. But just keep on going. Keep going and quiet the noise.
Keep on going. And a lot of times the greatest weapon that is formed against us doesn't come from somebody else. It comes from us internally. The thoughts in our minds that hold exactly the thoughts in our minds. Even in the new year, we said all these New Year resolutions. I'm gonna do this and I want to do that. But then we get to the halfway through the year, we like, well, I guess I just wait till the start of next year. No, do it now and live in the moment. Don't wait until, as Senior Saints would say, until the battle is over. Don't wait until the perfect time comes. Do it now, because if we keep on waiting, that perfect time may not ever truly get here. So,
This is true.
yes. Out of all of your ventures, which opportunity surprised you the most?
Out of all of them, I mean, I think that surprised me the most. Sometimes, I mean, all of it is a beautiful surprise to me. I think the thing that surprised me the most is everything I've done with food. I never had a desire to do anything with food. Never. Right? I moved to LA to pursue acting. I never wanted to do videos. I never wanted to cook. Writing a cookbook, like, it still blows my mind that, like, I know my mama and my granny and them in heaven, they be like, Lord, that girl is cooking and got a cookbook. Like, it was never part of my goals or dreams. And I still am surprised that, like, I'm a true testament of when God, if you're just obedient, He may take you on a different journey, but it's to bless you to get to all of your dreams, right? And that's what He did. It didn't come looking like I thought it would, how I envisioned or planned it, but it was perfectly lined in how He had the plan for me. And so it still blows my mind that I did anything with cooking, seasonings, food. Like, it still is a surprise to me.
Yes. And it's those surprises that makes you the most excited. Like, you don't expect it to happen, but oh, God is here, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and even when we think about surprises in negative ways, sometimes we allow negative surprises to shift us a little bit. But I want to encourage someone to turn what gives you discouragement into encouragement. And that goes back to the mind. Speaking to your mind. Let this mind be in me, which was also in Christ Jesus. All speaking to your mind. feel like a young person is watching and you're like, Jayden, I don't feel worthy of what I'm doing. Look at yourself in the mirror and continue to speak life into yourself. I am beautiful. I am handsome. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm a king's kid. I am chosen. I am gifted. I am talented. And you may not believe it at first, but the more you say it, the more you're going to believe it. And we're going to speak those things into the atmosphere and watch them become our reality. I'm like, we are in church, man.
I love you.
Yes.
I love it.
And speaking, we talk about all different projects, your ventures. And for the listeners, we were talking about this before. Miss Tab, she's from the area of Eden, North Carolina, and I'm from Henderson, North Carolina. And I think that may be 2 or 3 hours apart from each other. So just seeing you I would say create, but go on the journey that God has given you is truly amazing. Even, for example, Henderson, North Carolina is looked down upon as an underprivileged community. We have one of the highest crime rates, one of the highest gang activity, drug activity in all of North Carolina. But seeing you, like I said, gives us hope. So what legacy do you want to leave behind?
My prayer that my legacy is that I made people feel like they had a friend in me, that I introduced them to God's love, that I made them feel happy and joyful, and that I left my mark to be remembered as that, right? That is my hope. That is my hope for my legacy.
Amen. Amen. I'm sure you will leave that legacy behind and so much more. Wow. What an incredible conversation on grace, faith, and purpose. A huge thank you to Miss Tabitha for sharing her wisdom, experiences, and heart with us today. If there is one thing to take away from this episode, it's this. Grace is a gift we've been given, and it's a gift we should share. Whether it's forgiving others, believing in ourselves, or trusting God's plan, grace makes all the difference. Before we go, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs encouragement today. You can also stay connected with me on social media at I am Jayden Watkins, or visit JaydenWatkins.com to keep up with new episodes and updates. Remember, you are not too young to lead, too small to dream big, or too far gone to receive God's grace. Until next time, stay encouraged, stay inspired, and stay preferable.